Evans here, author of Who Let the Gods Out? And I'm delighted to be with you today. Well, sort of with you. I mean, on a screen in your classroom with you. I mean, I'm not there. It's not like you can smell me or anything, which is probably a good thing, actually, now we discuss it. I am here to run a little workshop with you guys about Who Let the Gods Out. Specifically, an important part of my writing of Who Let the Gods Out that I would like you to really think about. It's something called perspective or point of view, and it's a really important part of writing that isn't really talked about very much, and yet it's one of the first decisions an author must make, because we must decide with our books, are we going to write in the first person point of view, which means we are writing as that character, so we're pretending to be that character. So my new series, The Exploding Life of Scarlet Fife, I as the author pretend to be Scarlet and I write as her. So if you write in the first person, words like I and me and mine are super important. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is written in the first person. The Percy Jackson novels are written in the first person. A lot of David Walliams' books are written in the first person. It's where you, as the writer, pretend to be a character. In the Who Let the Gods Out series, however, I wrote in the third person, which means that I am the omniscient narrator. It's a beautiful word, say it with me. Omniscient narrator, and that means I am all-knowing. I, in this book, as I tell my children in their lives, am God. And I am looking over the world that I have created. And every now and again, I zoom down into somebody's shoes and I tell you the world through their point of view. Now, we're not using I in the third person point of view. We use he, she, it, and the characters' names. Now, it's really important because it's a very different book if you write it in the first or third person. The first person, it's very immediate. You can hear everything that they're thinking and feeling and seeing. But you always have to stay with them. If you are writing a book in the first person, that character must always be wherever the action is. Now, this can be difficult because sometimes you want to cut away and you want to show something else that's going on in part of your universe, as I do with this book, with the character Thanatos, who's the bad guy. Sometimes I want to show you what he's up to. Now, if Elliot was there, he would just find out what's going on, and I don't want that to happen. So I write in the third person. Now, the third person, you have to be a little more descriptive and you have to say what everyone's thinking and feeling. But your main character doesn't always have to be in the heat of the action. You can show some other things. And for that book, for that reason, for this book, it was really, really useful. Now, I'm going to read you the first few pages of Who Let the Gods Out. And I want you to have a think about whose perspective, whose point of view am I in? Whose shoes am I standing in? And then I'd like to set you a little exercise. So bear with me. Hold on. I need to put my glasses on because I'm 97 and I can't see. Oh, there you are. Oh, scary. The first chapter of Who Let the Gods Out is called Lying Low. And it goes a little something like this. It began on a Friday, as strange things often do. This particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most, although it had started normally enough. Elliot Hooper got up at 7:30, as normal, made his mum breakfast at 8:15, as normal, went to school at 8:55, as normal, and was in the headmaster's office by 9:30, which was in fact slightly later than normal. "Oh, Elliot," sighed Graham Sopweed, headmaster of Brismore Grammar School, "what are we going to do with you?" Elliot scratched his shaggy blonde head. He figured that excuse me from school forever and make me Lord High Emperor of the universe would not be deemed an acceptable answer. So he said nothing. "You seem rather distracted lately," said Mr. Sopweed to fill the silence. "Is everything okay? Is anything wrong at school or at home?" Elliot avoided his headmaster's concerned stare. School was, well, it was school. Annoying, boring, pointless. No change there. But home, that was a different story. "I'm fine," he said after a lengthy pause. "Thank you, sir." "Oh, Elliot," Mr. Sopweed sighed again, nervously flicking his floppy grey fringe. "You know you can call me Graham. Let's all use the names our mothers gave us." There were many more creative names for Brismore's headmaster than the one his mother gave him, but the politest by far was "Call me Graham." A shout outside nearly made the jumpy headmaster fall off his chair. Elliot couldn't help but feel sorry for Call Me Graham. There were many theories at school as to why he was such a bag of nerves. Not all of them started by Elliot. Some said it was because his wife had left him. Others said it was because she hadn't. Elliot's favourite was that Call Me Graham was actually a serial killer on the run. He could imagine the appeals on Crime Watch. So be on your guard against Graham Sopweed, the cardigan-clad killer, and be sure to call this number if he's bored someone you know to death. The thing is, Elliot, everyone at Wisemore wants to help you to achieve your fullest potential, Call Me Graham went on. Not everyone, sir, muttered Elliot. Whatever do you mean? Squealed Call Me Graham, nearly pulling a button off his cardigan. Everyone at Wisemore is committed to encouraging, nurturing and inspiring every pupil in our care. We're always here for a friendly word, helpful advice, or to make sure we know. Where is that snivelling runt of a pathetic excuse for a boy? The office door blasted open with a furious roar, making Call Me Graham scream like a kitten on a ghost train. Elliot was all too familiar with that loathsome voice. Oh, hello, whimpered Call Me Graham. As you can see, I'm just having a little chat with Elliot. Oh, sneered the new arrival, lurching up behind Elliot's chair and polluting his airspace with weapons-grade body odour. There was only one person who could make Elliot's surname sound like a dirty word. It was Mr. Boyle, head of history, Brisemore's deputy headmaster, and, unless there was a schoolmaster somewhere on the planet who minced his students into sausages, the world's worst teacher. Boyle was a stumpy, piggy little man who was the only person Elliot knew with fat eyes. He squashed them behind a pair of thick bottle-lens glasses and glared at his pupils like most people look at used cat litter, as if he had a permanently nasty smell under his nose. In fairness, he did. His own. His few remaining strands of dark, greasy hair were pasted over the top of his head, held in place by hope alone. To the naked eye, Mr. Boyle had 3 chins, but who knew how many more were lurking beneath his shirt, which always smelt like 3-week-old vegetable soup. He truly hated everyone, but reserved a special revulsion for Elliot, who had been getting up his pudgy nose for the past year. So? Asked Elliot innocently. Don't you sir me, Hooper, growled Boyle, bringing his sweaty face millimetres from Elliot's own. What you did in my assembly was disgraceful, disrespectful, and downright disgusting. Yes, we were just getting on to that, stammered Graham. He disgraced the Brisemore name, roared Boyle. He shamed himself. He shamed the school. He ruined my brilliant PowerPoint presentation on Napoleon's favourite socks. He fell asleep, said Call Me Graham quietly, looking at Elliot's pale face and dark-rimmed eyes. Let's try to keep a little perspective, Mr. Boyle. This isn't the first time this has happened lately, Elliot. Why are you so tired? Pah, spat Boyle. Out all hours terrorising old ladies, I expect. Or playing violent computer games until dawn. Or putting my underpants up the school flagpole again! Elliot tried not to smirk at the memory of his all-time favourite prank, which Boyle knew, but could never prove, that Elliot was responsible for last year. But pranks were long gone. These days Elliot couldn't afford any more trouble. Hooper! Shouted Boyle. The headmaster asked you a question. Don't be so disrespectful. It's quite all right, whispered Call Me Graham. Elliot can take all the time he... Shut up, Graham! Shouted Boyle over his shoulder, his chubby eyes not leaving Elliot's face. Now, that is the opening to the first book in my 4-book series. Whose point of view are we in? Whose shoes are we standing in? I really hope you're saying Elliot right now, because if you're not, I'm afraid you've got the wrong answer. It is Elliot. Elliot is my main character. He's our avatar in this universe. He is the person whose point of view I tell you a lot of this story in. I do switch it up. Occasionally I tell the story through the eyes of Virgo, who's the other secondary main character, occasionally through Thanatos and Patricia Porchley Plum, who are the villains in this story. But at this point in the story, I'm in Elliot's point of view. However, had I told that scene from another point of view, it would have come out really differently. And that's what I want you to think about. With your teacher, I assume you have a teacher in the room, otherwise they've left you unaccompanied, and really it's more of a zoo than a school and you should probably leave. Talk to your teacher now about that passage. What just happened in there? What have you learnt about Elliot's world? What have you learnt about the other 2 characters? What do you think is going on with Elliot and his life? I then want you to take one of these sheets, which hopefully you will have been provided with. This is a diary page, and I want you to have a think about what each of the three characters are thinking in that scene, and I want you to choose one. You can choose any one you like. So you can either be Elliot, or Call Me Graham, the headmaster, or Mr. Boyle, the nasty history teacher. And I want you to write a diary entry about that meeting as if you are that character. So if you're Elliot, what are you thinking and feeling? All writers deal in what our characters are thinking and feeling. What happened? What do they think about it? How do they feel about it? So I read you what happened. How do you think Elliot thinks and feels about it? How do you think Mr. Boyle thinks and feels about it? And how do you think Call Me Graham thinks and feels about it? I want you to think about the way they speak. I want you to add any other detail you might want about their days, as you can imagine, but I want you to imagine them going home that night and writing a diary page about that meeting. And then when you've written your diary page, share your work, and I think you will start to see that perspective is super important, because a different point of view completely changes the writing.